Welcome to DrZero Show. DrZero Show right now goes to Colorado. I have a great guest, Gregg Vanourek. Welcome. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing very well. It's good to be with you, Serdar.
It is pleasure for me. You are an entrepreneur. Actually, you are life entrepreneur. You are advisor. You are lecturer. You are trainer. You are consultant. So it is amazing for me. And also well-known author. Like you published 2 books. So I really want to hear a lot from you, but hopefully this is the series first video. 3 books, okay. Which one the last one?
Yeah, the last one is an education book called Charter Schools in Action.
Okay, perfect. Because of that, I thought, okay, I know the 2 ones, Life Entrepreneur, the other one is Triple Crown Leadership, and then this one. Perfect, wonderful. So my question is, and I hope it is going to be one of the series of videos. And then I would like to ask you, because you usually share at LinkedIn, you have some sessions, you are talking about life entrepreneurs. Could you please tell me, what do you mean? What do you mean with life entrepreneurs and how they are different than other type of entrepreneurs?
Yes. So most people think about an entrepreneur and they think about someone who owns and runs a business, for example. They're creating something new, a new enterprise, and maybe they're innovating. You also have an intrapreneur, as you well know, Serdar, who's an entrepreneur and innovator inside an existing company. And I've done a lot of work also with social entrepreneurs, who are people who bring entrepreneurial principles and practices to social problems and to change making in the world: poverty, hunger, disease, trafficking. And so as I think about those, I think about what's missing there. And there's a big category missing, which is that, why can't you be the entrepreneur of your life, right? And bring the practices and principles of entrepreneurship to your whole life, and not just to starting a new business or a social venture. So what are those entrepreneurial principles and practices? It's a sense of ownership, kind of psychological responsibility. It's agency. It's risk-taking. It's adventure. It's vision, it's innovation and creativity, it's resourcefulness. So Christopher Gergen and I wrote a book called Life Entrepreneurs, Ordinary People Creating Extraordinary Lives. And we went out and we interviewed 55 people around the world, mostly business and social entrepreneurs, some famous, some not. Howard Schultz, the visionary behind Starbucks, but also a rancher, a fighter pilot, a minister, a civil rights advocate, a yoga entrepreneur. And we asked them not only about their professional trajectory, but about their life and purpose and their values, and how they integrate their whole life with their work and lead their lives in an entrepreneurial manner. And it was very inspiring to talk to all of these life entrepreneurs.
And did you see some common patterns, the way that they look at the life or the tasks that they are doing, their work?
We did, very much so. And so there were all sorts of themes that came through. One of them was the fact that their approaches to risk were all over the map, surprisingly. A lot of people think about entrepreneurs as kind of all risk lovers, people who jump out of planes and everything. And some of them were risk averse, actually, by nature. Some of them
interesting.
And some of them were risk seeking. but they all found something worth risking, so worth you going for, because it felt so meaningful to them, so energizing to have a vision of something that they wanted to do. So they were all willing to take risks. And that speaks to one of the themes of the book, which is the courage to try, which is one of the core things that we need as entrepreneurs. I mean, as Peter Drucker said, every time you see a business, someone made a courageous decision years ago to kind of go for it and to risk.
Well, but can I have a question to that one? Because this is the thing, when we talk about effectual entrepreneurship, there is you actually calculate the risk, and then there you just look how much you can lose, and then are you okay to lose that one? So it is not like risk taking. Maybe we need to redefine that entrepreneurs are not risk takings, but the people that are courage to do stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think there's some misconceptions, and I think the research on effectual reasoning is very, very interesting in entrepreneurship. So I think the other aspect of that too is resourcefulness, and this notion of taking action by marshaling resources. And so, and it's not waiting until you have a ton of capital or tons of technology or a ton of team. It's being resourceful with what you do have and kind of creatively piecing together and bootstrapping and being so, so in love with your vision about what the future can be, that you've got this power of contagion, of kind of enthusiasm, where you can kind of bring other people because they also get excited. They want to help you. They want to be part of it and whatnot. So you end up being able to do a lot more with very little. And so that's the other aspect of it. And so you're able to kind of get started earlier and just make things happen. It's that kind of willingness to jump into it and take action.
I have a question, that one. Is it like this, that you don't have to wait for the perfect moment? You start with what you have. Is it true?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think a lot of people are, if you're not acting entrepreneurially, you're kind of too stuck in analysis paralysis and cost benefit, and you're kind of waiting. And so there's one of my favorite expressions about entrepreneurship is, do not wait until the iron is hot. Strike it and make it hot. Go. And I think that's one of the themes that's so inspiring about these entrepreneurs and life entrepreneurs, is they're willing to take action. They have that courage. They step out in creative ways, and they don't have all the answers. They don't know what's going to happen next, but you act and then adjust. You act and then adjust. But for too many people, for too many of us, because we're afraid, we're concerned, we never act. We're kind of waiting. And so, and that's no way to live. There are things that we want to do in our lives. So why not bring these, these power tools of entrepreneurship into our lives?
Definitely. Like sometimes I know, when you procrastinate, like you just, okay, I will do that, let's do it tomorrow. The more you don't do, you postpone more, because you just look at that, okay, I haven't done so long time. If I start to do, I am already late. So there is this type of being late is part of not to act also. And then the more you are late, you don't act the more. So it is like this circle.
Yeah, that's right. In the book, we talked a little bit about the kind of the window of opportunity. And not all opportunities are going to be there forever. And so there's this window that opens, and the life entrepreneur will leap through it and figure it out. But if you wait too long, it might close. And it's not to say that you'll never have other opportunities. There will be other opportunities that will probably come along, but that opportunity may never come back. And so you have this calculus then, which is interesting, which is sort of a lot of times when we're deciding about whether to go for something big, we think about the potential cost of failure, right? What would happen if I try and it doesn't work? And of course, we need to think about that. That's just smart, But the other thing that we forget to take into account would be, what would be the cost of regret if I don't try and I never do it? And now all of a sudden it gets really interesting, right? And then the other thing that actually comes into the calculus is the value of failure. So even if I do fail, right, I'm probably going to survive, right? I'm not going to bet everything on one thing all the time. But when do we learn the most? Do we learn the
when
most
we fail?
From when we fail.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, that was like, it was so intense, it was so hard. But now I've got this unbelievable toolkit and these lessons and this wisdom. And the next time I'm going to be smarter, I'm going to be stronger. So our calculus, I think, needs to change when it comes to risk.
Yes, there is also, this being scared to fail is the challenge, because when we create an environment that fail free, not like people can fail because they can learn from their failure. But in some cultures it is not accepted because you have to do everything by the book, rules and regulations. But one angle that I see the challenge there is like successful entrepreneurs, when they talk about their success, they go back to their life, they connect the dots so easily that people think they knew what they were supposed to do following 5 years. And reality is not the case, isn't it? People are making their, like they go back and create this story as if they knew what would happen. But this is not the case, I guess.
That's totally right. That was one of the themes that came out of the 55 interviews that we did, was that people sort of looked back and they could kind of make sense out of it and see the red thread and the themes, but it wasn't clear at all what was going to happen and how it was going to work. So this was not some kind of 50-page detailed business plan that they just went out and executed, boom, 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 boom. You can do that if you're working in a big company and you've had the product out for 25 years and you kind of know. But when it comes to being a life entrepreneur, starting a new enterprise, there's too many variables, there's too much uncertainty. So it's very murky. So you start with kind of a vision, and then you kind of iterate around kind of that business model, around that kind of, and you kind of you kind of canvas and kind of a lean approach. And so, but Serdar, you said something interesting earlier. I want to go back to it if I could,
please.
Which is the cultural influences, of kind of, the expectations of society or your parents or other, your friends, your colleagues.
And also you have been to two different, like Scandinavian culture and American culture. You have all this experience.
Yes. I lived in Sweden for 10 years. I lived in London for a year. I've lived all over the United States. And, these cultural influences and are strong, and also just the social influences of, parents and friends and peers. And so one of the things we talk about in the book is the common traps of living, the things that hold us back from living a good life or being a life entrepreneur. And one of them is the conformity trap. Right? And so it's this notion of, there's a lot of really smart people, talented, ambitious people, who end up going into the world like excellent sheep and just following.
Excellent sheep. We should talk more about that. Excellent sheep. So
this is a term from William Dershowitz. And he was a teacher and social commentator. He was talking to some of his students at elite universities. And one of his students said something like, I feel like an excellent sheep because there's so much pressure in my program. So when I was when I got my MBA, the pressure to go into management consulting or investment banking or something like that was enormous. And, it's not that those are bad careers. Those are wonderful careers and great opportunities. But is it such that 60% of the graduating class should go into those two careers as opposed to the hundreds of options, right? Or is there a bit of a kind of a conformity pressure going on where it's kind of, you're supposed to do this, this, and this? And
both
so
like conformity and social pressure, isn't it? They not only conformity also, because they tell if you do that you will have a nice comfortable life, but also the social pressure that is created over the students, what they are supposed to do. Like in Stockholm also, you will finish KTH and then you will go to Ericsson. So this was the mentality 10 years ago.
Right, exactly. I saw it at the Royal Institute of Technology, like you said, at KTH, when there's a lot of pressures to go into certain fields, certain industries, and these kinds of things. And so do we want to live our lives and come to our twilight years and look back and say, I lived someone else's life, or I lived the life that my parents wanted me to live, or I made decisions about my 90,000 hours that I'm going to spend at work based on what would impress the people that I happen to be hanging around with when I was 20 years old that I probably won't be in touch with, most of them within a few years, right? When we graduate and go off to our lives.
You're right.
And so how much of our decision calculus is based on these short-term things, the conformity, the social pressures. And so instead of being an excellent sheep, the point of life entrepreneurs is blaze your own path, right? Be a lion and kind of go for it, but do it as kind of uniquely only you can do it based on you. And so one of the other big themes there, Serdar, is to be able to do the courage and the risk and the stuff we're talking about and to push away the social pressures. We have to have a strong foundation. And in the book, we called it a core identity. And it's things like, do you have a sense of your personal purpose? What are your personal values, the things that you value most in your beliefs and principles? Do you have a vision of the good life, right? You can talk about a corporate vision, but what's your vision for your life? What are your strengths? Do you know what you're good at? What are your passions? What do you get lost in? And if you kind of discover purpose, values, strengths, passions, and you have that self-awareness, it becomes a foundation. And then you can kind of say, wow, based on that, there's a life that I want to live, that I want to go for. And then you're willing to take risks because it's energizing to you, because it really fits with who you are and what you want. So you got to take the time before you get too much into action to develop that strong personal foundation. That's leading self. It's being a life entrepreneur.
I have a question to that one, like actually two questions. One is, how do we provide education to the people so they can have this type of self-awareness? Do we have this type of education? Because it's, there are like books, like it was one of the most sold book, like The Secret, like if you do that, follow your passion or your feelings, the karma will come back, etc. So the thing is, sometimes when we say to the people you should follow your passion, etc., for some group of people they say that I need to make living, I need to pay my education debt, my loans, and I need to bring food to the table. So for them, the thing that you are talking about, or I am trying to teach, etc., sounds like magical, that is not possible. Is it possible to have this type of self-awareness and change even though you have limited resources?
It's very possible. And Serdar, you raised a real important issue, which is the question of sort of, is it just about if I follow my passion, then things will work out okay? And I don't believe that at all. And so I think that's a bit of a trope. It's a bit of a kind of motivational thing from a college graduation. And I think that, so I'm a big believer in knowing what you're passionate about and building that into your life, but that's only one part of the equation. And there are other critical parts too. So your passion, yes, but you also have to know what you're good at. And you have to develop your knowledge and skills and your talents over time so that you have what Cal Newport calls career capital, so that you're able to generate unbelievable value based on what you've been working hard at and learning. And so your passion needs to be complemented with real depth of strengths, right? And then I think, the other thing I mentioned earlier is that kind of personal purpose and values. I think that takes you really to a deeper level, right? And so there was a book about this. There was Good to Great and Built to Last about great companies. There was a companion book called Success Built to Last. And it was about what makes, enduringly successful people. And the two themes from that research, they studied, I think, over 100 people, were passion and purpose together as a powerful combination. So we've got passion, strengths, purpose, But the other thing that we need, and this is something that you know very well, right, is a business model, right? You also have to find needs in the world that you can serve such that they say, wow, that's great. I'm willing to pay you because you've made my life better, or, things faster or whatever. And so you need to be really smart and strategic. And that's not always clear, right? You might have to pivot, 20 times because, again, there's too many variables. So just getting it right the first time is pretty rare. It's not about, knowing everything in advance. It's about trying things and adjusting,
Yes. Also have the passion. Maybe you need to adapt it a little bit iteratively so that people pay for it. Is it? Because if it otherwise it just becomes an hobby and then you cannot make a living out of that.
Yeah. And so that was another theme that came out of our interviews with the 55 life entrepreneurs it's what we called adaptive persistence. And so on the one hand, all of us are going to encounter obstacles, things are going to be hard. And so we have to be adaptable. We have to adapt to the reality. We have to kind of abandon our business plan and go with what am I going to do now? And I think entrepreneurs are really good at making those adjustments. But at the same time, we have to persist against our overall big vision. So we adapt with the tactics, some of the strategies and the techniques, but we persist with holding out for the larger vision that we're really trying to go for. And so it's a bit counterintuitive, right? It's adaptive persistence.
This is interesting. Yes, it is not only to be persistent for the things that you cannot do, you need to adapt according to situation. Interesting. Any other more themes that you found during your research?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different themes.
Yes, 55.
So one of them is that authentic integrity, right? And so so being clear on that core identity can develop this kind of personal power where you have integrity. And I think if you have integrity, people will sense that. People want credibility and integrity and honesty in their leaders and the people that they work with or the people in their family. You have to be reliable, but it's also about being whole. The root of the word integrity is integer, which means one. So do you have one coherent life, right? And is it authentic to you? Are you pretending to be like Steve Jobs or Oprah Winfrey or whatever, or are you being the Serdar version of the life entrepreneur, right? So it's authentic integrity. So that was an important one. And then the other one is sometimes all this talk about being a life entrepreneur can sound very selfish and very self-centered. It's all about me and what I want for my life. And it's not that at all. The other theme that came out was pervasive service, which is an ethic of contribution as a defining feature of our lives. I think some of the best moments in our lives are the ones that we share with family and friends.
Yes.
The best of us is when we are serving other people, when we're adding value to our team, we're supporting a friend, when we're helping our customers, right? And then we can look back at it. And so if you're too selfish, if it's all about me and me getting to this position or whatnot, it actually makes us less happy and less fulfilled. But if we're connected and we're contributing regularly, it makes us happier, as well as being just a wonderful thing where we can support each other. So this notion of pervasive service. And Serdar, there's one last theme that I'll mention.
Please.
I think it's really important because this business of life and entrepreneurship, it can be punishing. It can be hard, because it's up and down, it's a roller coaster.
Painful.
And so it can be painful. There's failure, there's exhaustion, there's stress and pressure with taking these risks in our lives and in our work and these kinds of things. And so the last theme that we end the book on is the importance of renewal. We're all human, we all have limits, so we need to be smart about taking care of ourselves and having regular practices of checking in and pausing and breaks and looking back and reflecting. One of my favorite stories from the book is one of the life entrepreneurs. He runs a business that is scaled, and as the owner and CEO of the business, and someone who wants to lead a good life, he takes 30 days every year in what he calls his secret office. And what is his secret office? His secret office is he goes out to the forest and he goes out on a kayak on a lake, and he goes hiking up a mountain, and he will be gone all day, and he won't check email at all for that 24 hours. You know, he's just literally away. He's off the grid. He does this 30 days a year. This is beyond vacation days. This is beyond holidays. And he just needs to get away and reconnect. And he says, you know, most times his best business ideas come after, you know, those days in his secret office, when he's taken the time to kind of get away from the scrum of, you're in the mix of things, and you get that perspective. You kind of come back to yourself. So the importance of renewal, I think, is powerful, and too many people neglect it. They overlook it. They say, I'm too tough.
But I think I really would like to spend a little bit time on it, because it seems this concept of renewal actually lets you to recharge. But if you look at the current business settings, especially in US, you have very short vacation periods, and people won't think that they need to work more to be much more productive, much more effective, to create like meaning in life. But what you are saying is totally opposite, and you claim that it adds more value to people's life and also to the company. Did I understand correctly?
That's right. I mean, there's a connection between our personal resilience and organizational resilience. And if I'm trying to have personal resilience in a culture of burnout, where they treat us like widgets and they're just, you know, attacking us and it's never enough, then I'm probably going to leave, or I'm going to make bad decisions. And there's research on, we make poor decisions when we're tired. We make unethical decisions when we're tired. These kinds of things. And so you can think about, you know, any organization or team needs to be able to execute today what we need to do, but also we need to preserve the capacity to be able to do what we need to do in the future, and build new products and services, or have, you know, new, you know, skills and learning, right? And so if the organization gets so balanced on this side that it's, you know, execute, and it's intense all the time, it's going to crater its ability to, you know, succeed in the future, and then at some point it's going to collapse. And, you know, by contrast, if you're so focused on developing future capacities you're not taking care of today, then of course, you know, that's going to be a problem too. So you need to have this kind of, some kind of reasonable balance, short term, long term, today, tomorrow, execution, building capacity for the future. And so that's, I think that's true of all of us.
Yes, it is actually, if we connect it with sports, for example, actually rest is good part of having trained body, because you train, but if you don't rest enough, it doesn't help your body to have better muscles or getting stronger, because you need to rest enough also, so that you can train much better next time.
Yeah, that's right. I think, you know, you can think of yourself as kind of a corporate athlete. And when you're training, you're actually destroying some of the muscle cells and fiber, and you need to then rest. And so the best Olympic athletes, professional athletes, they will train very hard for a period of time, but then their rest routine and their nutrition and their sleep and all sorts of things, you know, checking out mentally is a really important part of their practice too. And if they don't do that well, they're going to get injured, or they're going to get burned out, these kinds of things.
Yes, Gregg Vanourek, thank you very much for joining DrZero show from Colorado. It was amazing to have you here. Thank you.
Great to be with you, Serdar. Thank you.